Hey everyone, welcome to the Smart Economy Podcast, a production of neonewstoday.com. I'm your host, Dylan Grabowski. This is a special episode of the Smart Economy Podcast dedicated to ETH Denver 2023. The first ETH Denver event was held in 2018 and has become the, quote, largest and longest running Ethereum hackathon in the world, end quote. And the event holds a special place in my heart because it brings a global community of builders to Colorado and the general Intermountain West region of the US. This is a part of the country that I feel is striving to be as forward-thinking and blockchain-friendly as possible. For instance, the current governor of Colorado was the first congressman to accept Bitcoin for his re-election campaign in 2014, and in 2022, it became possible to pay for our state taxes using cryptocurrency. This year's ETH Denver also marked a milestone for the community building event. It had outgrown its previous location of the iconic Denver Sports Castle. The Sports Castle was built in 1926, and the building itself is a prominent feature on Broadway, one of Denver's busiest downtown roads. The Sports Castle was ETH Denver's home for its first 5 years, and there was an emotional attachment to the building. This is a point that we'll touch upon later in this episode. Instead of our spiritual home for the previous 5 years, the herd of BUIDLers were gathered at the Denver Western Stock Show Complex, a wise decision in retrospect as there were more attendees at ETH Denver 2023 than attended all the years prior, cumulatively. This year, there was a 50% growth in the previous year's attendance alone, at about 48,000 attendees and 15,000 unique attendees. The floor space at the new venue was massive, with hundreds of thousands of square feet. The main hall boasted hundreds of booths for Web3 companies, at least 5 main stages for presentations, a gargantuan amount of tables for hackathon teams to collaborate over, and just generally buzzed with activity. Overall, despite the market sentiment, the building mentality was stronger than ever, and this was exhibited by hackathon final projects such as building on Bitcoin through inscriptions, spinning up effective and safe burner wallets, using DeFi protocols to contribute to social causes, and so many more cool projects. While the builders were brimming with activity building cool products, there was also an air of uncertainty that lingered. So many of the panelists and presentations on those main stages, particularly from VCs and lawyers, discussed regulatory concerns and the opportunities and constraints that are currently in the crypto space. That said, with this merry bunch of Web3 participants, the positives definitely outweighed the negatives. Walking away from ETH Denver this year, I felt my thesis was further confirmed. It is safe to say that blockchain will continue to grow. And from a regulatory perspective, if one jurisdiction isn't favorable to a crypto company, then another one will be. The networks will continue to grow, and peer-to-peer decentralized solutions will continue to embed their way into everyday life. This is why the Smart Economy Podcast exists. There's a shift in the way that people can contribute to and participate in digital economies. People no longer need to locate in geophysical agglomerated regions like Silicon Valley. They can instead contribute to a new economic paradigm from anywhere in the world with a laptop and an internet connection. Listeners, we are at the forefront of the new digital frontier. So, while I was walking around ETH Denver, I wanted to see what some of the other attendees thought about the general atmosphere of the broader blockchain and crypto space. There was a good mix of folks that we spoke with for this episode of the Smart Economy Podcast, ranging from the entrants of the class of 2020 and 21 to those who were directly impacted by the collapse of Mt. Gox. To set a tone for the rest of the episode, I wanted to hear a little bit about people's perspective of the crypto space and what they like about these in-person events. Hillary Sims from the Wazi's NFT project and Bullish Terriers said,
Yeah, this is my first crypto conference ever. The thing I think is the craziest is that, you really see how massive the space is when you see this many people here and you start talking and you find out that you have no idea what product they're building, where they're from. You don't know any of the same people. And it's like, literally, we've both been in the same space for how many years and we don't know who we're talking about. So it was pretty refreshing to talk to you and have about all the OG CT memes and drama.
Hillary has been in the crypto space for a while, so it was really interesting that this was actually her first event ever. Though this experience wasn't unique to just her. Leo Gwynn is a senior at CU Boulder and is building Fanguard, a ticketing platform that leverages NFTs. He touched upon how hard it can be to discuss blockchain with people out in the wild who are not in the industry.
Personally, it's the past, 7 years-ish, I'm just learning about crypto. It's been more of a solo adventure, just learning myself and maybe talking to my family and they're oh, Leo, just shut up, I don't care about this. And coming here and through CU Blockchain Club too, but also just meeting more people here, I can just nerd out too, which is great because I like to nerd out all the time. And this is my way to just meet new people, meet actual faces, meet people I met online. And it's just great to connect in person because online is great, but getting to see the person, getting to see their body language and how they interact with the world is so different. And I value that.
Something that I love about events like this is just running into random people that you never thought you would have met. While I was standing in line for a hero, I got to chatting with a newer industry entrant who is building a mobile game that incorporates NFTs. Scott Herman, the director of talent acquisition at Wagney Games, said,
"Everyone in this space is very open. People are just happy to talk. And it's because this market is such an emerging space where everyone here is more focused on increasing the size of the pie versus trying to take a small slice for themselves. Mm-hmm. And because everyone understands that, I feel I look forward to these events. I'm going to meet so many cool people. I'm going to make some new friends. I'm going to get people to try my game and give me their honest opinion about it. I really like it.
It wasn't just those who were attending their first crypto conference that felt that the buzz was palpable. For many in this space, these in-person blockchain events are among the handful of times they might ever get to physically meet someone that they work with on a day-to-day basis. James Young from Collabland said,
"I've been a developer for a long time. This July, I'll be 51, and this is still the most kind of, it's weird, the learnings and the constant innovation I've never seen before. And it's so interesting to me because we deal with this quote unquote trustless technology, but going to these conferences, I think, for me, I've made more friends and connections here than I ever have before in such a short amount of time. Because the innovation happens way too fast. There's no way that you're going to be able to know everything. So you want to size up devs and okay, well, I know they know what they're doing and what they're saying, so I want to pick their brain on stuff because that's the only way you're going to be able to shorthand all the innovation that's happening. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it's kind of the balance. And then you want to pay it forward and give back to people. And so want to help new devs out. And so this all constant recalibration.
And ETH Denver veterans were also excited about the people who have attended year in and year out, as well as those who are brand new to the space, bringing the passion and drive. One of the things I noticed at this year's event was much more hoodies and jeans compared to the amount of eccentric rainbow clothing and funky costumes from years prior. I posited this theory to ETH Denver co-organizer and former Shapeshift head of R&D, Kent Barton.
Yeah, I think honestly it would still be ETH Denver even if everybody decided just to wear a leather jacket and dress all metal and black. That's how I frequently dress. The colorful stuff is sort of part of the brand, but people should just dress however they want. And ultimately, it's beyond the surface level stuff of what you're wearing. It's really about what are you working on. Also, I feel sometimes like to the outsider that might otherwise be interested in this space, the crazy stuff is like maybe a little bit alienating because it's like, well, I didn't sign up for that stuff. What is this crazy neo hippie shit? You know, like, so I'm really glad that there is a balance, and there should always be room for people to dress however they want. Even if you want to show up in a suit and tie, like, dude, if that's your thing, cool. You know, it's like, it's not about what you're wearing. It's about who you are, what are your ideas, do you want to hang out? That's kind of what it's all about.
This year's ETH Denver was packed with so many different types of ideas from the participants. Something I've always appreciated about the blockchain space is how anyone can carve out a role for themselves if they really want to be a part of the industry. I included this next portion of the podcast to highlight the different crypto timelines of the attendees at ETH Denver. Hillary from Bullish Terriers talked about what brought her into the space and what still amazes her.
I got into the scene, bought Bitcoin like early, like maybe 2014, not a lot, just little bits. I've always been like super interested in the tech. Got into mining and like, mining Bitcoin. Yeah. So I had amp miners and, we'd go to like the local Texas miner meetups and whatnot. And like my brother was into it. Whenever all the ICO season happened, and I just kind of like jumped in full force researching what to buy, what to sell, and like kind of fell in love with the really crappy coins. It's just fun. Like that part of the trading like is exhilarating. To me, it's kind of like astonishing to see that actually some of those projects made it and are still around today. And like, I'm still holding some of these tokens, which is cool.
Scott from Wagney Games highlighted how he was able to leverage his social media experience and success in the fitness industry to join the team of a blockchain-based game, even though he was relatively new to the crypto space.
YouTube kind of just started and Twitter just came out, and I was like, I could help people in my club that couldn't afford a personal trainer if I made these how-to videos on how to use all the equipment in my gyms. And at that point, there was no algorithms, right? I could upload 10 videos at a time, and it didn't matter. Right. It was great. And they're all 1 to 2 minute videos, like how to bench press, how to bend over row, how to pull up, how to anything. Yeah. My how-to plank video has like 30 million views. It's crazy. But that really taught me, hey, social media, there's something here. You can connect people all over the world. And it really allowed me to do what I wanted to do, which was teach fitness to the world. Fast forward to 2021, and I started kind of getting into crypto. I had a friend tell me to buy Shiba Inu. And that was my intro to crypto was, hey, buy Shiba Inu. So I started a crypto YouTube channel, and I was very warm welcomed into the community because I would go on live streams from other crypto channels with my Scott Herman Fitness YouTube channel handle. And by the end of my first crypto year, exploring like altcoins and DAOs and all these different things, I started to realize that what was probably going to take off first for crypto and really make it mainstream was gaming. Because in gaming, the utility isn't the stuff you're making up to try to create utility, it's the game. And if the game is fun, then people will buy the NFTs. And if you can figure out how to integrate the token that makes sense, people will buy the token. But the main focus has to be the game.
When I first heard about Bitcoin, it sounded really interesting, but there was way too much to learn, and I quickly wrote off the entire space. In fact, sometimes I still feel like I can't keep my head wrapped around a lot of the new blockchain-enabled products and technologies that are coming out on a consistent basis. I am sure this is something that resonates with many. Mike Chan, the Thesis head of marketing, acknowledged this, but also had a positive outlook on the amount of knowledge that's necessary.
In the crypto space, been working for about 4 years now. Okay. But been, like many other people, investing for a while since 2013. I think it's obviously a space that has changed a lot, and that's one of the parts that I love about it. It's just constant change. You got to keep up, we're building the future here.
There are a wide swath of reasons why someone might become interested in crypto and blockchain technologies. It could be from a monetary stance, an artist's perspective, desire for open and decentralized networks, political ideologies. Really, there are just so many reasons why someone might become interested in this industry. Alex Mexicot from the People Talking podcast shared a bit about his genesis into crypto.
I came from a more traditional light bulb moment that a lot of people, like the early people, came into the space for. I was an economics major. I look at the world through the lens of economics, and I worked in the tech space for a while. And like many other people, I had that initial introduction to Bitcoin and Ethereum, thought it was cool, didn't really dig too much into it, and then left it for a few years. And then you come back to it and dive down the rabbit hole, and you're like, holy shit, why didn't I listen to myself back then? I would say sometime in college, so probably somewhere in the 2015 to 2016, like early Ethereum days, I'd heard about it, and just the fact that it was this kind of decentralized technology that was more of like a world computer that you can build on top of the applications, that to me more than Bitcoin and anything else, coming from like being interested in the tech world, I saw the initial the value of that. But come late 2020, early 2021, just the political landscape that was going on, I already had this kind of cautious approach to authority and to government, and not just blindly trusting, and being very aware of how this could snowball, right? But there were things going on there where I just had this break that I was like, I really just have zero confidence in the trajectory right now. Like, things are accelerating in terms of how bad they can get.
Yeah.
So I started looking at alternatives, and naturally that brings you back to the space. And at that point, it was obviously way more mature. So there were not only a lot more content for me to read, documentation, videos, like things that people are trying to create to bring in that next wave of people. I was that wave at that moment. But a lot of use cases were really built out, and we realized this was no longer a theoretical thing. These things were built out. And there's always that next wave of, here's what else we could do, here's what else we could do. Let's take this concept out to the nth degree, here's what's possible. And that just got me super excited. I was immediately built, and I just dove deep down the rabbit hole.
In 2019, I participated in a panel at a local Colorado blockchain event debating the merits of EOS, NEO, and Ethereum. At that time, we were in the depths of a post-ICO bear market, and it seemed like there were only builders that were attending these events. At this year's ETH Denver, I ran into one of my co-panelists from that event that represented the Ethereum perspective. James Young, the co-founder and CEO of Collabland, shared a bit of his experience from back then and how the ethos of crypto is still alive today, and how that keeps him going.
In 2019, and we were like, when we had that talk, that panel conversation, if I remember correctly, we were still kind of in the thick of a bear market. And my thoughts back then were, okay, are blockchain, crypto, Web3, is it actually going to be relevant or not? Right? There was kind of this existential questioning in the bear market. Because I think, from what I remember, ETH was like at the peak 1440, and then it dropped down to 80.
Yeah.
And so that was this kind of questioning. This bear market, if it's your first bear market, it definitely is impactful, and it could be shocking. But I don't think in this cycle, I haven't had existential issues.
Yeah.
Right? So I think now it's about mainstream adoption. And really, it's about, like, can we stay true to our original ethos? You see all these scams and centralized exchange hacks, or all of the regulatory issues that are happening. And I think it's a different kind of concern. But I think going through kind of the previous cycles, I guess, I don't know, I get thicker skin, or, not as worried, or, we've been through this before. It doesn't seem as like, kind of, oh man, like, is this going to work out? It feels like this cycle is more about how do we stay true to kind of the original ethos. And it's interesting to, like, see people and not see people, who's still in it and who's like tapped out. And so, yeah, I mean, it's great seeing you here because,
Likewise.
you know, it's this kind of constant thread of people, you know, still here. And it takes that, I think, time horizon to really vet out who's in it for the right reasons.
During my tenure in the blockchain industry, something has always stuck out to me. It doesn't matter whether you've got a 30-year career in finance under your belt, or you're a high school student who likes to tinker with blockchain. Everyone is even on the blockchain field because the information is open and available for anyone and everyone to consume, and this is such a young, early, nascent field. So it was really interesting to hear about Leo's experience, even though he is, quote unquote, still in college.
When I was in high school, funny story is I went on a cruise and I started seeing newspapers back in 2017, Bitcoin reaching 20K all-time highs. I'm like, what is this? What is this? But the funny part is actually before that, I think 2015, 2016, I was thinking of buying silver or Bitcoin because I was just young. I wanted to invest in something, but unfortunately, I bought silver instead, and I still regret it to this day. But I was under 18, so I was under the impression that I couldn't buy Bitcoin, but I could have definitely found like a shady exchange or whatever. Yeah, some way. There's always a way. There's a will. There's a way. But I always regret that ever since. But it's all right. So like when I first turned 18, finally, I bought Bitcoin back in 2019. So that was before like this other cycle. So I've been pretty comfy, and it's pretty nice to see like just like the cycle of everything and seeing how that works.
Given the various experience levels and general industry outlook, I really wanted to get a sense of what others thought about ETH Denver. Over the years, I'd certainly developed my own insights, and this year I noticed a bigger gathering of people and more unique projects at the event. But I wanted to hear what others thought and if they were getting this sense as well. I was particularly interested to hear what Dan Shields, a developer experience engineer at Parity Technologies and former guest of the Neo News Today podcast, thought on that subject matter. He has been a staple in the local Colorado blockchain community since 2017 and has attended every ETH Denver. He said,
Oh, man. So I just watched this Denver 7 News blip that came up this morning. And so the vibe has changed in how big this thing is. The local news station's talking about the governor coming to this, as they deemed it, the Super Bowl of crypto, which I thought was kind of cute. But we're very well established. And John Pollard came on, and his quote was basically like, this year we have more people than all previous 5 years combined.
It's crazy.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Right? And looking at this, you can see it. We're in this massive venue that's like a maze. In fact, it's this, like, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of square feet that you can't tell where you are. Like, it's like just jungle of sponsors and booths to meet people at. The thing, though, that's different this year from last year, and last year, to be honest, I was a little concerned. We were in the top of this, bull market phase, and there's a whole bunch of hype and money, and it was forgive my French, it was a party. And what got diluted, which was really unfortunate and made me worried, was all this like energy and culture around building a better future that I'd seen before. It was more just like, we're here to have a good time than like, we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And this year feels a lot more like we're here for a reason, which is super cool, especially seeing that we're growing and the culture's back.
Yeah.
So like, if anything, this makes me super bullish about this year moving forward is, I love the bear cycles for the people and the culture that it brings out. The one thing that hasn't changed year to year is the growth in the BUIDLers that are here, which is amazing to see, and it seems like the culture is thriving no matter what the fiscal environment is like.
Another industry veteran and friend, Michael Perklin, the former Shapeshift Chief Information Security Officer and current C4 board chair, shared what he loves about ETH Denver.
Honestly, I love the vibe of ETH Denver more than any other conference that I attend every year. It's a vibe of building, or biddling, I should say. It's a vibe of fun. People are in fluorescent colors, shiny things. I myself, as I speak to your listeners, I'm wearing a unicorn cape, which is very apropos for this venue. That blend of getting stuff done and building alongside, well, let's do it in a fun way. That vibe has always attracted me, and I think it's one of the main reasons why Ethereum has done so well over the years since it's launched.
Alex from the People Talking podcast also noted the growth in participants and the energy of the crowd. He too is a Colorado local and has attended multiple ETH Denvers and highlighted how the event has matured over the years. He said,
"This is my second or third ETH Denver. I think I just missed the one 2-3 years ago. So
the virtual one?
Well, it actually might have been virtual. That's probably why I didn't hear much about it. I've been to other MCons here, but this was already when ETH Denver was big, and it's still growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
It's still big. And I think people are just still blown away by how many people show up, especially now in a bear market. It feels a lot better seeing how many people are here and how energized people are.
Yeah.
In a bear market, it's not just like the attendance rates fluctuate with the token price. That's really, really good to see. You can tell this is not an investor focused or just a price focused type of community.
Totally.
A lot of the stuff I'm seeing on Twitter is people are just really, really fired up at some of the things being built and how enthusiastic people still are about this space, because there is so much to do still. It's overwhelming. Man, it's been all over the place. So the things that are super exciting to hear about are people that are starting companies either to develop protocols, or they're starting DAOs to develop different projects, or they're starting new creator type of projects. It is all over the board. So I wouldn't say through the conversations that I've had that there's any one theme. What's really cool to see is how many people are coming from lots of different angles.
And James is also familiar with ETH Denver events, as he is a local and has also attended nearly all of them. But he's also been going to other conferences this year as part of his role with Collabland, so it was really interesting to hear how this event has compared and contrasted with those that he's recently been to. James said,
"This conference is huge. Compared to last year, and I mean every year it's grown, but this kind of feels like a different level.
Yeah.
And I just see faces. I don't know most of anyone, when typically I can spot out people in a crowd.
Yeah, it's really
being going through the conference circuit. Because of Collabland, we've been to a lot of NFT conferences.
Interesting.
And the NFT conferences are very different. It's very much like partying culture, more mainstream in a way. And coming here to ETH Denver, I don't see that NFT presence. It's a different kind of vibe, and I think it's a mix of being in the bear market and this being more developer centric. I'm really interested, like you were just saying, what projects are going to come out of here, because we have new, generation of developers. Every cycle, account abstraction is pretty huge, and MEV is pretty huge, and then ZK, all the zero knowledge stuff is pretty huge. So I think those three kind of advanced threads, kind of going deep into the weeds there, is really interesting.
Over the days during my time spent roaming the massive floor space of ETH Denver, I'd also noticed a lot of new faces. At previous events I'd attended, I'd oftentimes run into people from the local blockchain community with higher frequency, seemingly around every corner that I used to turn. So I was interested to hear from first-time attendees about how this event stacked up to any preconceived notion or hype that they might have heard. Mike from Thesis said,
"Yeah, definitely. You don't even exceed my expectations of being the first ETH Denver. Like I mentioned, it's a very different vibe than some of the other conferences that I've been to, and yeah, you get more of a builder vibe. You get more of the people who truly believe in what we're trying to build here, and it's massive. I didn't know it was this big, so that was certainly a big shock. But yeah, I think I've had tons of great conversations here. I think the people that we've talked to about Tahoe and Threshold are all super excited about what we're building, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Are you going to be coming back next year?
I'm going to try, definitely. I don't know, just saying, I broke 2 ribs on the mountains before ETH Denver, so I hope that doesn't happen again next year if I come back. But yeah, that definitely trying to make my way back.
Scott from Wagney Games has been attending a lot of NFT and gaming conferences as of late, So his take offered a bit of context for how games can be part of blockchain-specific events. Scott went on to say,
I'd say it's like the bigger conference because this is set up to be an actual spot where like you stay in the conference. Like for example, NYC NFT was big and there was a lot of people, but like
it's all over the place.
The goal was to go to like other locations for different brands that had rented out space and things like that. Permissionless was cool, but I felt like it didn't have as much variety as ETH Denver has. And ETH Denver has a lot of different like gaming specific type stuff, which obviously I really like, you know. So I would say so far out of all the conferences, this one's more tailored to the things I would like to see. So I'm happy we're here.
Beyond interesting hackathon prizes and informational presentations on various facets of the blockchain and crypto space, events like ETH Denver serve as a great medium for the dreaded word networking. While it can be an unfavorable topic for the introverted developer, ultimately, when anxieties subside, these types of events attract really interesting people, and it's great to connect with them. Hillary from Bullish Terriers said,
"It's been really cool, and I've met a lot of really amazing people. Like, just honestly, my favorite part has just been like meeting you. You know, just who am I standing next to? Like, what are they up to? And then it's kind of amazing, like, how you're finding solutions for these things that you might be building or you might want to be a part of. Like, it seems like they've just fallen into my lap, like, since I've been here. So It's a bit overwhelming, and I wish I had, like, the time and the energy to, like, stay the entire time and really, like, squeeze out every last drop, like, you know, because it's funny, like, I've been to a couple events that were, like, very oversold, very crowded, and then I had planned on leaving, you know, and then I go over by the fire and I've met like the, you know, the CEO of the whole company is like just hiding in the back, you know, and it's like those are the moments where you're like, okay, it was worth it. Like, we had a long conversation, we really connected, and like I'm like, I feel super optimistic leaving here, and I think probably everyone has the same feeling. Like, you get re-energized, like, and I think that's what we need in a bear market.
From the small sample size I was able to collect through these various conversations, many of the attendees generally had nothing but positive things to say about ETH Denver. I wondered, was the quote-unquote ETH Denver vibe something that the co-founders and volunteer staff were worried about losing since we were moving venues and into a larger space? Kent, one of the co-organizers, said,
I feel relieved. I was cautiously optimistic that the vibe would scale up from the Sports Castle, which is our spiritual home and had been so amazing over the past several years. And we had to scale up. You know, it was getting crowded, big lines, not enough bathrooms, but it was such a special place. But I was hoping it would the new place would maintain this sort of like kind of gritty, punky vibe and not feel too polished and corporate. And this place, the National Western Complex, is perfect. It's like, it's big, it's vast, but it hasn't really changed the fundamental, like the fundamental ETH Denver vibe is still here.
One of my favorite things about the blockchain and cryptocurrency space is the ubiquitousness of the technology and all the various industries and verticals that this open source, decentralized network technology touches. Something that really stuck out to me is that it doesn't matter if you're an industry OG or brand new to the space. If you've got the drive and the passion and the vision, then there's plenty of room for you here. Leo from Fanguard and CU Boulder talked about how his team's platform is coming together each day.
We conducted over 40 interviews now around the local Colorado area regarding venues and how they do their ticketing. So, and what the problems we found out was like the security of tickets, people getting to events, and the secondary market, and how that works, and scamming, and price gouging scalpers. So we created Fanguard, which basically uses NFTs to help with the ticketing industry, to help with the ticketing market. Yes. So right now we are creating our first smart contracts through Neo, which is awesome. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks to Tyler and Dylan. So the one thing we like about it is right now I'm more the blockchain person, and my friends are more like the Web 2.0 side, the front end, the back end. So basically, I work with them to help connect the Neo blockchain side to our front end, to our Web 2.0 backend.
Of course, being a developer isn't the only way to carve a niche in or contribute to the blockchain and crypto space. I am a living testament to that. I write articles, I host meetups, and I have a podcast that I am ever so thankful to you, the listener. Alex from the People Talking podcast went on to share his thoughts on creating content in the Web3 space.
I wanted to start my own podcast, but I started to ask myself, why would I do another Web3 podcast? Because there are so many out there, and it seems to bring on the same guests talking about the same type of specific things in Web3. So the angle that I wanted to take differently, and this was values that I had before, is what I found is as I was talking to more and more people in the Web3 space, I found so many of them had lots and lots of different interests outside of Web3, and we're almost similarly obsessed with those things, but never got to talk about them because, again, they're going on the same podcast, talking about the same Web3 specific types of content. But what happens is these different topics that they get obsessed with always influence their perception and how they look at Web3 and how they build in Web3. So, for example, I've had guests on talking about probability in gambling, using physics to design better metaverses, storytelling, conflict, Native American history, and how those cultures were very decentralized, and there's so many learning lessons that he's learning just from that culture on how to maybe design a more decentralized ecosystem within Web3. And the thing is, these topics are never directly related to Web3. So the podcast is called People Talking, just at the atomic level, probably the most simple description of all podcasts, right? It's a little bit of that Midwest self-deprecating humor, right? So it's called People Talking. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a few other smaller different podcast hosting sites. And what might be easier to do is if you search People Talking and then my name, Alex Mexicot, sort by podcasts and shows, it'll come up. Getting into the podcast space, and to take a little bit of a step back, like everyone else, I feel like in this space is you're not only just doing a full-time gig or doing one thing, but you're doing lots and lots of different things at the same time.
Along these lines of creative avenues for crypto creators, there are other artistic endeavors that can also be associated with good causes. Hillary from Bullish Terriers described what inspired her NFT project.
I just kind of got introduced to the NFT scene about a year and a half ago, kind of started drawing a little bit on my own, dropping some things on OpenSea that were getting picked up. And to me, I was so shocked that no one knows who I am. I'm just posting this random thing, and within 10, 15 minutes, someone is buying it for $400 or $500. I couldn't believe it. I work for Biwasi's.
Yeah, Wazzy in real life.
Yeah. And just kind of after seeing the power of positivity around the scene, how sweet everybody is and how they get so excited about what you're doing, it really made me think about something that I'm passionate about in my real life, which is helping rescue animals. I have 2 rescue bull terriers, and I kind of originally thought about doing a meme coin, and I'm like, that's dangerous, and I'm not a, so I was like, the bull token, or whatever, I don't know. So then I thought, what if I did a cute PFP collection, and that was right when PFPs were starting to come out and be popular. And I thought, this is such an amazing way to be able to raise these funds. In real life, we have a group of about 200 bull terrier owners who kind of found each other through Instagram. And so we have this awesome core Instagram group. Communally, we have over 2 million followers, collectively between us. And for almost a decade now, we've been doing a small fundraiser every summer. Bull terriers love bananas. And so we have just, we kind of figured that out, after talking to each other. It's they're obsessed with bananas. And so we made a banana-themed fundraiser where we sell merch every year trying to raise money for these rescue groups. And it's called Nannerfest. And it's coming up. And I would love to segue this into more of a children's brand, having a cartoon, having all of the things. We have plushies in the works, a lot of toys. I want to write children's books, but with a mission,
Yeah.
And so, I want everybody to know when they see a Bullish Terrier what it is.
Scott shared a bit about how he got his foot into the door at Wagney Games and what the team is currently working on.
I actually joined Wagney first as an influencer, so last February. And then after my first month with them, essentially what I did was I utilized all those contacts I had made from when I first started getting into crypto and basically gave Wagney a huge push. Our first game is called Wagney Defense. So Wagney Games is our franchise. And our goal here is mass adoption. And Wagney Defense is a tower defense game. It's a strategy game, very similar to Clash Royale. There's 3 towers on one side, 3 towers on the other side. The goal is to blow up the middle tower. And it's a 3-minute game loop.
Alongside the creative projects our guests are working on, others are also focused on educating people, from newbies to seasoned developers, about various aspects and facets of multiple blockchain technologies. For example, Michael from C4 talked about his transition from working at a decentralized exchange into an education-focused entity.
I'm here representing C4, which is a nonprofit that helps educate and provide standards for the space, but also the Shapeshift DAO, which is how I spend my day job. For 5.5 years, I was Shapeshift's Chief Information Security Officer, and although Shapeshift is shut down now, and I no longer work for Shapeshift, I continue to work on Shapeshift. I had the pleasure of leading a team for one of the most ambitious projects that this Shapeshift DAO embarked on, and that's a way to get us off of centralized AWS as a backend and have us on a decentralized RPC backend instead. I'm also happy to say that as far as C4 goes, my day-to-day involvement with that nonprofit organization has dropped a lot, mostly because we have amazing staff members now working full-time for C4 to help it accomplish its mission. Our executive director, Jessica, is a spitfire. She is awesome at everything that she does. She comes from a background of education, which is perfect for our mission. And through her leadership, we were able, over the last year, we launched the Certified Ethereum Professional Exam, and we launched the translations, the Spanish translations, as well as launching the CCSSA, the Cryptocurrency Security Standard Auditor Exam. So 3 huge milestones, all within the last year, largely because of Jessica's leadership.
After scratching the surface, then there are education efforts that really seek to hone into the specifics of code bases and seek to educate core developers of blockchain networks. One such avenue for teaching developers is through a rigorous course, which Dan from Parity Technologies talked a little bit about.
I got into Parity Technologies, and this is the engineering team that's mostly behind Polkadot, and putting in all of the hard work behind Substrate. This is the blockchain building framework in Rust that we use to build Polkadot itself and all these parachains that connect to it. But a lot of what I've been doing is understanding how Substrate works, why it works, all these complicated systems of building blockchains. And what's become increasingly apparent to us is that, one, it's really hard, and 2, it's really hard for people to understand how to do this, and there's no program for it. So out of this has come the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. It's Polkadot in name only, though, in brands, and I think that's just because it's subsidized pretty much entirely by Parity presently, and shortly will be by Polkadot's treasury itself very soon. This is an academically rigorous program that's in person that we're going to run 2 to 3 times a year, depending on how much we were able to, around the world, to teach people core engineering concepts, right? It's an academically rigorous program to go from like competent-ish engineer who knows something about Rust out to a very well-established baseline understanding of all the fundamentals with no gaps to build secure and absolutely robust consensus systems.
Then there are also products, tools, and dApps that folks are working on building, whether it's for the end user or the development team. For the end user, Mike from Thesis talked about 2 of his team's projects that had booths at ETH Denver.
Thesis is a crypto venture startup studio. So we build projects internally, incubate them, and then eventually spin them out. So the bird flies away from the nest. So here we have 2 projects. One is Threshold, which is the decentralized Bitcoin to Ethereum bridge. One of the big themes in Bitcoin now are the ordinals, right? Kind of a contentious little subject. Look, they're building on Bitcoin, and that's cool, right? Like I think it's super cool that they're experimenting on Bitcoin, just like that Ethereum developers have been doing for many years. So yeah, we with some minimal changes, we can have a Bitcoin ordinal bridge to Ethereum, and we're researching that. We're working on that. The other project is Tahoe. We're the community-owned open source Web3 wallet. And I think the big difference between us and a lot of the other wallets is that we really embrace and espouse the Web3 ethos of community ownership, transparency, and also it's just a beautiful wallet to use. And we have in wallet swaps, and all the fees for that goes back to the treasury. And cool. The community gets to vote on how we use those funds and the future features of the wallet.
In the past few years, it feels as if community participation and governance models have really taken off within the blockchain space. From DAOs to token-gated communities, there are new models of group participation that continue to arise. James from Collabland talked a little bit about what it's like to engage with and build for these communities.
Collabland helps manage your token community, your tokenized community. And so we invented the space of token gating, the whole industry. And we just had a token launch last week. We have about, I think this morning when I was checking, almost 90,000 holders.
Wow.
Yeah, and our DAO that we also launched just crossed 50,000 members. Instead of going and competing directly on features, why don't we open up the platform for third-party developers to build on top of?
Very cool.
And now we think of ourselves as Collabland as not token gating anymore, but of a distribution platform. Because if you're a third-party developer and you want to reach an NFT community, what are you going to do? You're going to, one, build whatever the app you're building, and then two, and a lot of developers don't really think about this, but distribution is very hard. How do you market? How do you get awareness, right? And this is what these hackathons are about, to provide awareness to, great and interesting ideas. But with Collabland, what we want to offer is instant distribution. So if you have a great app and you want to be able to reach NFT communities, you can just build on top of Collabland, and you'll get direct access into that NFT's Discord server if they choose to install your app.
As the rate of developers onboarding into the Web3 space increases, we're going to be hearing more about both niche and broader projects simultaneously. With so many ETH Denver 2023 hackathon participants, I was blown away by the types of developers that are out there. So I was a little bit curious to hear what finding developers was like 5 years ago when they might have been a little bit more rare. Kent, the ETH Denver co-organizer and former head of R&D at Shapeshift, shared what it was like looking for developers back then.
So a Solidity developer back in the day was like a unicorn, an ultra rare unicorn. And now, Solidity developers are still hard to come by, but this is more of a thing now.
Yeah.
It still feels like we're on the frontier, but back in the day at centralized Shapeshift, it was also a feeling of very much just okay, we're making this up, we're improving, sort of like to use a music analogy, like playing some improv guitar solo. We're going to hit some bad notes and we don't really know what we're doing. It might turn into a train wreck, but hopefully not. But now it feels like we've got some stuff under our belt and it feels smoother. So, relative to then, it feels much more inevitable that this technology is going to be a thing.
Over the years, it's become more and more noticeable, but no more so than this year, and that is ETH Denver was a multi-chain melting pot. Throughout the event, I saw shirts, booths, and presentations from the Cosmos, Near, Polkadot, and various L2 ecosystems, alongside the Neo swag I wore. And people were even talking about building on Bitcoin. Kent, the ETH Denver co-organizer, touched upon this theme and highlighted some of the multi-chain discussions that were taking place this year.
Two themes, I would say there's a lot going to be happening on rollups, just seeing like the different iterations of rollups. You have so many variants right now, and there's going to be just a huge proliferation and Cambrian explosion of those. And then also multi-chain. You know, a lot of people, I've never heard this at ETH Denver. A lot of people are talking about Bitcoin for a change. You know, you have ordinals now. That's a whole new thing, man. And like, that's great. I love Bitcoin. I hate Bitcoin maxis. And to see some innovation on that, you know, is great. So I think there'll be some developments on that front for sure. That's exciting. I can't recall seeing a Bitcoin-centered type of hackathon project at prior ETH Denver, so that was really cool to see. This just confirmed my thesis in terms of like, you can tell there's innovation happening in different spaces, different chains. You can tell these people are committed. They have awesome ideas, and every blockchain has trade-offs. I'm an Ethereum guy myself. I think that's that provides the best balance of, you know, scaling and decentralization and security, kind of, especially with rollups. However, like, you know, there's different design spaces, and it would be tremendous folly to say that, oh, you know, this one thing is all it is, all there is. We, for the sake of building a vibrant ecosystem, we need different chains.
A hope of mine as we progress further into the multi-chain world is that there is less crypto tribalism among all of the token holders. This is not a game where it is A or B, but A and B and C and so forth. Dan from Parity Technologies acknowledged how different chains can serve different developers' needs.
The thing that drew me to the ecosystem originally in 2017, 2018 range in particular was Ethereum Denver that happened, the first one in 2018. And it was the culture and the people that sunk it for me. It was like, this technology is really interesting and the crypto's kind of cool, I guess, but like the people and the clear vision about trying to make a better world, like, and some of the most intelligent, brilliant people that I've ever met in my life were here. So that's what I'm a maximalist in, is Web3 vision and people. If Solidity can do what they need to do, they probably should do that, right? It's easier, it's probably faster to make happen, there's way more support and education around it. So if you need something better though, and more custom, more optimized, you come and find our stack. And then from there, hopefully you can find the real value proposition of Polkadot, which is the shared security model. And what I'm really excited and maybe bullish on is what Polkadot can provide that other bridged technologies and other general like multi-chain environments are lacking, at least right now. For instance, Cosmos, right? It's a very vague and unclear security model across chains, right? So we've got the Cosmos SDK that you can build your chain.
Cool.
But this IBC, it's not clear what security you're going to get from that, depending on who you're talking to.
In an industry as far-reaching as blockchain and crypto, there are so many projects, people, and ideas to follow. I enjoyed getting to ask each of the guests, what are the trends or the needs of users moving forward that you're keeping an eye on? Answers varied from very technical perspectives to education-oriented and community-themed concepts. Hillary from Bullish Terriers touched on a few of these topics.
There's so much innovation in the space continually. You know, it's not even just about picking winners, it's about picking quality and longevity. I do have that in real life with my group of over, 200 people. It's just a matter of teaching them how to safely get involved with this space. So we're looking at a way to sort of onboard new people to Web3 and have a fiat on-ramp for them. Cool. And make sure that they understand about, wallet safety and security and whatnot.
It could also be as simple as just making a really fun game for people to play that will onboard the next wave of blockchain users. Scott from Wagney Games said,
I feel like in the crypto space, we need games. Of course, there's room for first-person shooters and there's room for these huge metaverses, but your average Web 2 gamer does not want to even look at those games. And mobile is 53% of the market. So everyone has a phone, everyone has time for a mobile game.
But what about the users around the globe who aren't gamers? What about the everyday average citizen on their mobile apps or those who are just surfing the web? The ones who don't care about underlying protocols. Alex from the People Talking podcast spoke a bit about what he thinks the technical and cultural aspects of the blockchain space will be moving forward.
I do think that UX is going to continue to be something that people are focusing on. And you have to continually extrapolate away the kind of back end, which is the blockchain aspect of these different apps. The ultimate metric for me and the UX side of things is people don't even know that it's blockchain or what blockchain it is, or NFT. The word NFT is never used. Like extrapolating that more and more away, that's going to be an iterative thing. I bet it's continuing to be a focus for next year, but hopefully we're in a much better spot and we can say UX is still a focus, but here are the ways that we've actually improved over the last year. As far as Vibe, I think this is going to get more and more eclectic. The types of people who come in here right now, I wouldn't even necessarily right now, maybe in last year or the year before that, very much a technology-focused type and finance-focused type of conference. But now I think it's becoming more of a culture-based type of community.
Yeah.
That's the big word I see people keep saying is it's a community. And the thing is, people are coming from lots of different avenues, as I'm sure you are seeing on this show. Where did you get crypto built? And the more and more you're going to interview people, the more different type of backgrounds that they're going to have, and these different angles that they're going to be coming into Web3 at, because there are more use cases built out, and that light bulb moment is going to be very different for lots of different people.
It is the variety of types of people here and the ones that are coming that make the crypto space such a vast array of ideas and potential. As different types of cultures begin to embed themselves and make an impact on the blockchain industry, different use cases will arise. Mike from Thesis touched upon the diversity of ideas and architecture.
That's part of the thing that keeps you on your toes. I just think that there's so much creativity now where we're still really early in this space, right? Aside from, even though we've got all this coverage on CNBC or all these news outlets, we're still really early in the experimentation phase. There's still the core infrastructure being built out. A lot of people are like, okay, why do we need another 5 layer ones?
Right.
Because it's just the core, no one's figured it out yet, right? It's core infrastructure. So, I think on one hand, nothing surprises me too much nowadays. On the other hand, I think I am also surprised about all the creativity and the hard work that's going into building out the core infrastructure.
I also wanted to touch upon a theme that I'm excited to look back on in a year or 3. Will institutions and retail crypto users develop a similar affinity for self-custodial solutions? Mike went on to say,
a lot of those institutions got burned, right? And I always say this a lot, where whether it's a retail user, investor, or institutional user, investor, most people don't care about decentralization until they really have to. And most people should care more. And it is, it's kind of the truth, right? I think a lot of people just want to do what's convenient, and but then sometimes they pay the price, and no one wants to see them pay the price. But I mean, that's why we're all here. We want to make sure that they don't have to pay the price.
It's not just broad and cultural shifts and trends the industry will need to keep an eye on moving forward, but also a new era for internet architecture. Michael from C4 and formerly Shapeshift went on to highlight a really cool project he's been working on with an array of shadowy supercoders.
Archeo is a decentralized RPC network. It's a decentralized Infura. Rather than talking to a centralized batch of AWS servers or a centralized Infura, you can use Archeo to find a Bitcoin node, an Ethereum node, a Litecoin node, any of the blockchains that you need, and get all the data that your application needs.
Cool.
The launch date hasn't been announced yet, but it is coming later this year in 2023. I would encourage people to get involved with the testnet, because that's a surefire way of getting Archeo tokens at launch.
Cool.
To make sure that you get a larger allocation in the airdrop than the average person.
In such a rapidly evolving tech space, something that people might have wanted 3 years ago might be something that they want nothing to do with today. There are also corners of the crypto space today that weren't buzzing 3 years ago. James from Collabland talks about some of the changes over the past few years, where his team is seeing current demand, and predicts what will become a primary area of focus in the years coming.
So we sit in the middle of NFTs, DAOs, and DeFi. And we see a lot of mainstream adoption and growth happening in NFTs. And so it's really interesting. Like a year and a half, 2 years ago when we first started, it was really like crypto natives. And what they were looking for was, we want to make sure that you respect our privacy. And whenever we want to verify ourselves, we want to sign a message. But now the climate or the market has completely shifted. No one wants to sign a message anymore because that's really the main scam attack vector. And so these cycles move so quickly. Been a software developer for 25 years, and I haven't seen cycles move this quickly. When we went from Web 1 to Web 2, we saw social move faster than Web 1, but like Web 3 is like light speed. And so what we are seeing and focusing on with Collabland is trying to service this NFT community. So that's really where we're seeing the growth. And so my hypothesis moving forward now, community is here to stay. I think that the crypto community, developers specifically, don't really understand the breadth of research when it comes to ID and decentralized IDs and verifiable credentials. And so I think with the coming emergence of AI, things are going to get weird really quick. And it's been this interesting decade of knowledge of decentralized IDs where we want to own our own data, but that was always kind of a nice to have. But now with the coming AI, no one in a few years is going to know what's real and what's fake. And so now a nice to have will quickly become a need to have, where I think this is where the internet is going. You're going to distrust everything on the internet unless you can verify it.
Ultimately, there was an overwhelming sense of growth at ETH Denver. There was a growth in attendees, in presentations, in Web3 companies, in hackathon projects, and a general sense of growth in the mainstream arena. From where I stand, ETH Denver serves as a canary in the coal mine, and the bird is singing a nice tune. Kent touched upon this positive outlook from his perspective as a co-organizer.
I also feel more optimistic than ever about the future of this space, just walking around seeing how many incredibly smart people and interested people and curious people are involved. You can just, it's very tangible evidence of this space is growing. You can see just the number of booths, across the different spaces. Back in the day, or even just last year, we sort of had the general booth space. Now we have the DeFi area, the DAO area. We have things for different spaces, different sub niches or market segments. And it's really cool to just see kind of that kind of evolution. Will all these projects succeed? For sure not, but that's okay. It's like 1,000 flowers are blooming. And it's part of why I mentioned I'm so optimistic, is you can just see so much going on. There's this critical mass. You can feel the critical mass. There's so many interested people that want to think outside the box. And, I feel like we're getting more developers in the space. Anecdotally, it feels like maybe the space could benefit from more developers. Maybe that's a challenge moving forward, but I'm really just positive and optimistic. I feel like in the year between here and now, there's going to be 10 years worth of innovation. I think there'll still be a lot of angst about the regulatory stuff. That's probably not going to be any different, but it kind of rallies everybody behind this idea of decentralization. Yeah. And wow, now that I kind of feel okay, now that we've moved to this venue, we got that down. So let's maybe refine on that and have an even cooler event next year. And I feel like there's going to be more people, and people will self-select to join this crazy space we call crypto. So yeah, check in 1 year. We'll see how it goes, but it's going well so far.
This wasn't my first crypto conference or event. But for those who never met the actual people working in the crypto space, and I'm talking about those who are only familiar with online personalities that might be PFPs on Twitter that have a hot take, ETH Denver served as an awakening or an aha moment. The people from this event weren't just people who have hot takes all the time. They were individuals, they were builders, developers, founders, investors, lawyers, and artists. By the final day of the conference, it was obvious that everyone was absolutely spent from multiple days walking around and long nights talking with others at social hours or post-conference events. But on that final day, there was still an excitement in the air that could be felt, and people yearned to connect with others and see what it is that we can all build together. Looking forward to next year's event, I can only hope the trends continue in the onboarding of new developers and the growth in decentralized networks and their tools. And I hope that we get to hear about more sensible legislation and less about concerns from VCs and lawyers who delivered presentations this year. If you're interested in attending ETH Denver 2024, the best way to keep up to date with the event is by going to ethdenver.com. I also want to thank Michael Perklin, Scott Herman, Dan Shields, Mike Chan, Alex Mexicott, Hillary Sims, James Young, Leo Gwynn, and Kent Barton for helping to contribute their voices for this special episode of the Smart Economy podcast. Attention was a scarce resource at ETH Denver, and everyone was being pulled in multiple directions at once, so I really appreciate the time that each of you gave me. Also, shout out to the Neo News Today team who handled my written content assignments while I was off gallivanting around this amazing event. On that note, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Smart Economy podcast. If you liked what you heard and want to support the show, please keep Neo News Today in mind when voting for your Neo Council representative as part of Neo's governance process. We appreciate you and look forward to catching you next time.